Ronald Reagan is somewhere this morning going, well, I told you.
I told you so.
Stephen Portnoy joins us now from ABC News. You can't take the politics out of this, but we need to talk about the reality first. And in reality, what is the threat as we know it, at least this morning?
Well, good morning. It is almost, I immediately went to the mid-1980s and that animation of spy satellites shooting lasers at ICBMs. It was the Strategic Defense Initiative that Ronald Reagan proposed in the 1980s that sort of became a bit of a laughingstock, if only because it seemed so far afield and far-fetched and expensive. But what we're talking about nearly 40 years later is apparently some sort of effort or desire on Russia's part to put nuclear weapons in space to take out satellites, which would wipe out so much of America's communications and military capabilities. So this is a serious thing. But what was sparked yesterday was a frenzy here in Washington. The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Republican Mike Turner, put out a news release saying that, without disclosing the intelligence, saying that there was an unspecified urgent matter of importance for all members of Congress to be read into, and he was calling on President Biden to declassify it. He said it involved a foreign military capability that could be destabilizing, and he wants us all to be able to talk freely about it. What was really interesting yesterday was the pushback that Mike Turner got from his colleagues in Congress, including the Speaker of the House, who came to cameras to read a statement in which he said that he's been aware of this for several weeks, wrote the president about it last month to ask for a briefing that's been set for today, and that there's no need for alarm. At the White House yesterday, Jake Sullivan, the president's national security advisor, said he was surprised that Mike Turner would try to draw public attention to this, particularly in advance of the briefing set for today. And you had Senate leaders, particularly those who run the Intelligence Committee, saying that it is a serious thing, but also that sources and methods need to be protected. And the concern was that if too many people get read into this, that those sources and methods might be compromised. As it is this morning, we're now talking about what those members of Congress have been told, which is that this involves that Russian desire to put nuclear weapons into space. Mike Turner doesn't seem to think that's a bad thing for public to know. In fact, he's urging that we all be able to discuss it publicly because it's a public policy question now. What should the U.S. do in response to this? I guess, not to put words in Mike Turner's mouth, but he must see it as a Sputnik moment where it's time to, goose the American people and say, hey, folks, let's get engaged.
Well, the word nuclear thrown into this is a big deal and certainly gets everybody's attentions. But it's my understanding, and has been for years, that we have anti-missile, or I should say, well, I guess it would be anti-missile defense capabilities in space now to protect our satellites. What do we know of that?
I don't know anything about that. But I'm curious to know what you know about that. But look, the question is also, what else is going on in Congress having to do with American policy toward Eastern Europe and Russia that is in play here, and also intelligence capabilities? Because it happens that Mike Turner is a strong proponent of U.S. support for Ukraine, and Mike Turner is a very strong proponent of the expiring provisions in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA Section 702, which is set to expire in about 2 months. And it is thought, there's one school of thought here, that Mike Turner is trying to say, see, folks, see what we can learn with FISA 702, and fellow Republicans who are worried about warrantless spying by the U.S. government and the deep state. You see how important this program is? We need to reauthorize it. We need to fund the Ukrainian effort against Russia because this is what Putin's up to, and everyone needs to wake up to it.
The thing I was speaking of, Stephen, is SBIRS. Your town, Washington, loves acronyms like nowhere else. And SBIRS. It's America's space-based infrared system, the most advanced ballistic missile warning capability in the world. What I don't know, is it a warning system that would then key defenses here, or do we have some abilities in space? And if we do, nobody at the Pentagon is going to go, hey, we already got that, because that's not going to be announced. So I don't know what we're going to find out. I'm sure there'll be leaks from this meeting today. Do you anticipate a full-on, hey, America, here's what's happening?
I don't know. I mean, ultimately, that's up to the White House because this matter is classified. And so while the Intelligence Committee Chair, Mike Turner, has the ability and is entrusted by his colleagues with the authority to alert them to things. That's the reason you have a House Intelligence Committee and the reason you have briefings such as the one that's going to happen today. So there's some sort of, legislative oversight and awareness of and visibility on some of the secrets that the U.S. executive branch keeps. The question is, that's being asked is, was it appropriate for Mike Turner to do what he did yesterday? And obviously Turner believes that it was. That's sort of an internal discussion for House Republicans to have, because when you have the Speaker of the House say, no need for alarm, folks, and you have the leaders of the Senate Intelligence Committee say essentially the same, and by the way, we're worried about too much talk about this, the propriety of what Mike Turner did yesterday gets called into question. He was not responding to our reporter who shouted a question, why did you kick up all this dust, Congressman? But again, we need to know more. And at the moment, the concern is that, certainly Mike Turner's concern is that the Russians are building toward a capability of trying to take out American satellites. And again, it's the idea that this is a capability the U.S. can't defend. I know that whatever you're referring to, that program perhaps would be a warning system to allow for us to know that Russia has fired an ICBM in our direction. We'd certainly want that kind of surveillance and visibility, but the idea that the Russians could take out the satellites that provide that visibility is something that is novel and we can't protect against. I mean, what do you do if our satellites are vulnerable and Russia tries to take them out? There's no way to get ahead of that, is there?
I don't think so. Trust me, Stephen, I'm not investing in SBIRS. I'm just answering the question that popped up before when I brought it up initially. This is all I know at this point. So I now expect you to go out and do the actual reporting while I sit here and run my mouth.
Well, and like you said, there's things that we shouldn't know about and they don't want us to know about. So is there a closed-door meeting and they say, hey, why did you kick up all this dust? That's something we don't know
it's
about?
It's only closed door until it's open.
I totally expect that. Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. If it'd be a fly in the wall between Jake Sullivan and Mike Turner today, it'd be really interesting.
Stephen, ABC News, thank you.